Almost 4 years ago, we did a video listing why people were leaving California. This was in early 2019, before the census came out and we realized how bad it had gotten. And it's gotten worse since then. Today we're going to list the reasons why California, for the first time in its history, is actually losing population. A lot of people think California's had a declining population for a decade or so. It's not true. From 2010 to 2020, the rate of people leaving California was the highest it's ever been in the state's history. The thing was, they still had more people moving into the state than leaving. Since California has been included in the US Census in 1850, they've gained double-digit population every single census but two. In the 1860 census, they actually had triple-digit growth with a boom of 310%. Then in 2020, they only had single-digit growth. California's population grew by 6%. Most decades, they grew by at least 50%. So 6% is pretty low. Now, in the 20 months since the 2020 census came out, it's estimated that California's population declined by 1%. It is predicted that by 2030, they will lose 12% of the state's population if a lot of things don't change. Companies like Chevron, Pabst Brewery, Oracle, Toyota, Tesla, to name a few, have put California in the rearview mirror, along with many well-known celebrities like Joe Rogan, Graham Steffens, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, Julia Roberts, and many others. Today we're going to look at 10 things that need to change in California according to people that have left or are planning to leave the Golden State. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, crime. Crime is always a big concern with anyone, but the thing is, California does have crime. It's just not as bad as I think a lot of people think. There are pockets which are horrible, but overall, California's crime rate's not that bad. This is a big one for any state that has major cities. Most people just assume because of the big cities, they have high crime rates, and the rest of the state does too. California is ranked 22nd when you rank the states by their crime rate. When you factor in unreported crime estimates, they would only move up one spot to 21st. Now I bring that up because they have a large foreign population, a lot of immigrants, foreigners, undocumented, whatever you want to say. Those demographics have a history of not reporting crimes for a lot of different reasons. They don't trust the police, they're afraid of being deported, things like that. Now I bring that up because someone always has to put that in the comment section. Whenever we bring up a crime rate isn't as bad as people think it is, they always want to bring that up. I researched that one, and that's what it breaks down to. But yeah, a lot of people say that the crime rate needs to come down in California, or they're leaving, or that's why they left. The crime rate is bad in California, but there are far worse in the nation. Number 9, opportunity. People don't think they have the opportunity to get ahead anymore. They feel that there's so many factors working against them that they will never be able to do anything but tread water and probably never retire if they stay in California. A lot of the retirees heading to Nevada, Arizona, and Utah, that's why they're leaving. They can't afford to retire in California. That's because the cost of living. Sure, they have some desert communities where the cost of living isn't crazy, but most of California has an extremely high cost of living. Is it the highest? No. Hawaii's the highest, followed by New York, and if you want to count the District of Columbia as a state type thing, then they're in there also ahead of California. The cost of living index in California is 139.7. So the simplest way to look at it, and it's kind of dumbed down, so if you're a mathematician, I'm sorry. If you really don't feel like hearing a bunch of numbers, I'm giving it to you this way. In California, going to the grocery store, it's like you pay $140, but you go buy the same stuff in Idaho and it costs you $100. And the cost of living shows no signs of going down. I mean, we're in an economic downturn right now, whatever you want to call it, and prices are still going up in California, faster than almost any other state. Number 8. The social issues. Now, I use the word social issues as a nice way of saying it's got a really bad homeless problem. It is estimated that there's almost 162,000 California residents that would be considered homeless. Whether they're living on the street, they're in a shelter, they're living in their car, whatever, they're considered homeless. That's almost as many as the next 4 states combined. New York with 91,000, Florida with 27,000, Texas with 27,000, and Washington State with 22,000. You want to see how bad it is in California? Nick Johnson did some really good videos on the homeless situation. He went all up down the coast. He went to Skid Row, LA. He went to the Tenderloin in San Francisco, and then he went up to Portland. Then he went up to Washington. Watch those videos and you could see how bad it's gotten. He went at what I believe was the peak of the homeless crisis that the COVID played a part in putting a lot of extra people out there. It's gotten a little bit better, but it's still way worse than it should be. And it is driving people out of the state, especially in San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, and Los Angeles. Number 7, the drought and all that comes with it. There's droughts every single year, or at least what they call a dry year. There's actually a lot of factors that go into declaring a drought, but in 2011 to 2017, California had a drought that was the longest drought they've ever had. Matter of fact, 2011 to 2014 were the driest years in California's history. Every once in a while, an El Nino year will come through and they'll have a whole bunch of water, which comes with a lot of mudslides and things like that. But most years, California is in some form of drought status. Most of the state is a desert and people don't seem to understand that. You go out by Bakersfield and they're growing everything they can grow out there. If you were to take the farms and the buildings and all civilization out of the Bakersfield area, it would be a great place to film a movie where a cowboy dies of thirst next to one of those dried out cattle skulls. Now, besides the fact that it's a desert, Southern California gets most of their water from the Colorado River. And as populations grow all along the Colorado River, that means less and less water is getting to each state. I mean, even in Nevada, Lake Mead is drying up, and that's part of the Colorado River system. With the drought also comes wildfires. Every single year, California has hundreds of wildfires that just destroy millions of acres. People lose homes, and the state has to spend a ton of money on resources to battle these wildfires. The fires are getting more frequent, they're getting larger, and they're getting more destructive. And a lot of people leaving California express frustration over the fact that the fires aren't likely to get less dangerous anytime soon. There are hundreds of people that have lost their house multiple times in California. You know, my house burns to the ground, I just leave. That's it. You know, I'll take my insurance money and try someplace else. Now, the wildfires aren't just burning houses. The smoke and the air quality just drops for months at a time. A couple years back, I took the train down to California. The sky was orange the entire time I was there, and not that typical smog brown you get in California and Los Angeles and stuff. It was just an orange haze night and day. Now, California does all kinds of different things to try and fix the problem, and the first thing they always go to is getting the residents to cut back on their water use. You know, let your lawns go brown, no more swimming pools, things like that are always in play, and they always tell you to conserve water. There's all kinds of rules about low flow toilets and shower heads, and that's only going to go so far. In recent years, they've talked about other things they're thinking about doing, and a lot of them are costly. Water desalination, recycling wastewater, which they're already doing kind of, but they want to expand that, which is going to cost money. Increase groundwater storage, again, it's going to cost a lot of money. Increase surface storage, again, more money. Eliminate swimming pools, that sucks. Eliminate golf courses and other facilities which use a tremendous amount of water. Elimination of high water use crops such as almond groves and wine vineyards. Get rid of wine vineyards in California? Are you effing crazy? My personal opinion, not knowing the ins and outs of it, but water desalination seems to be the way to go, even though it is very expensive. You know, they've been doing it in the Middle East for decades. Why can't California? Number 6, a breakdown in society. This is a strange one because some of it could have been included in the crime entry on this list, and it's also just not in California, but California seems to be at epidemic level with a lot of these things. But Californians leaving say people have taken a turn for the worse in the Golden State. People throw fits and scream in public at like Starbucks. Road rage is at its highest rate ever in California. The punishment for crimes, they say, is worth the attempt. That's why you see on the news groups of people just running into stores, taking whatever they want with a mask on, and then running out. Whole group of them. People go into your driveway in the middle of the night and steal your catalytic converter, and sometimes they do it in the middle of the day. You got follow home robberies, smash and grabs in broad daylight. While people are filming these idiots just smash your window, take your laptop, and leave, they don't care. You got street takeovers where all these people in cars just kind of block off an intersection, start doing donuts, and a whole crowd is with them, and the cops really can't do anything about it. The list goes on, and one of the biggest problems is, and this is a policy issue in California and Washington and Oregon, which I see the reason for the policy changes, but I think it's gone too far. But people don't care about the consequences anymore. And they know if they get caught doing any of these things, they're not really going to prison. For you to do any amount of serious time in California for a crime, there's got to be a body pinned on you. Someone had to die. There's just not enough consequences for your actions in California. Public decency has become a thing of the past. There's a lot more that goes into that, but you get what I'm talking about. Number 5, the housing crisis. Yeah, you knew this one was coming. Housing in California is ridiculous. I've done several videos on how expensive it is to own a house in California. I saw a guy talking about this on YouTube and I kind of looked it up and I really couldn't get a, accurate number, but the guy said in the 1950s, almost 80% of the population of the United States could afford to buy a home. Then he went on to say now in the United States, it's about 65%. In California, he said, it's closer to 30%. Now, I have no hard data on that one, but I feel that's pretty accurate. The median cost of a house in California is about $600,000 right now, $622,000. That's currently, and it could change next month, so don't be quoting me. It's actually $635 right now. What are you talking about, Briggs? I get that all the time. The average rent in California right now is about $3,000. It's about $1,700 more than the national average. Now, there's a lot of different reasons for this, and there's a lot of different theories. One that I've always seen as a problem is NIMBY, not in my backyard. Since forever, California has done this thing where they don't want any big developments in neighborhoods or anything like that. They fight tooth and nail to stop big developments from happening. So you have a housing crisis. And they do it in all kinds of things to preserve the character of the neighborhood, to protect the environment, save the El Segundo butterfly. Yeah, that's a real thing. They stopped a bunch of housing going in by LAX, Los Angeles International Airport, because of a frickin' butterfly. At least that's what they said it was for. There's a hillside at the end of LAX between the ocean and Los Angeles International Airport that is probably about a quarter a mile wide and about 2 miles long, and they had plans putting houses there. Now, this originally was a housing area. It was developed in 1921. It was called Surf Ridge, California. It was actually like a little town, and it was one of the many coastal developments that was built on this wide swath of sand dunes as the coastline became more urbanized with, houses and actually oil fields and things like that. Surf Ridge became like this hot spot for Hollywood's elite. This is before Malibu became a thing. Then in the 1930s, they built a small airstrip, which would eventually become LAX. People started moving out because of the noise of the planes coming over their nice little beach cottages. By the 1960s, not as many people were living there, and it wasn't like this little place for the rich people anymore, so LAX claimed it in eminent domain. Now, they had talked about expanding the airport onto that area, and then eventually they ran into problems. It was a blue butterfly. Yes, the El Segundo blue butterfly and the environmental movement that was backing this thing stopped the airport from expanding, and then eventually when they tried to put houses there, the butterfly stopped the houses from being put back in Surf Ridge. So now this prime piece of real estate is just vacant lots. Now, that's a long story, but that kind of explains the mentality of California and especially the Los Angeles area. That's how a lot of things go down. That's not just some one-off bizarre story. It's kind of a common scenario in California real estate. Besides all that, you just have incredible amount of zoning laws. Now, don't get me wrong, housing complexes and big apartment buildings and different communities are built all the time, but not nearly as often as they need them. Number 4, the remote worker. That's right, one of the other reasons California is slowly becoming a ghost town isn't a negative, it's remote work. People are deciding, like I've been saying on this channel for a long time, that if you could work from home and you don't need to be in California, Los Angeles, San Francisco for your job, why not move someplace affordable where you could actually get ahead, not just survive. There was a study in 2020 by the e-commerce site Fast that found that of those Californians who are able to work from anywhere, 43% are thinking about leaving California. Number 3, it's dirty. If you go to certain areas like Skid Row or the Tenderloin in San Francisco, it's extremely dirty. Well, it's not just exclusive to those areas where the homeless hang out. A lot of California is dirty. It's better than it used to be, let's say the 70s and 80s, but compared to a lot of other states, it's a pretty nasty state. On top of it, everyone's heard all the stories about, the homeless people dropping deuces in the street. Well, that happens anywhere you have homeless. I mean, that's just how it is. They've got to go. They don't have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath place to do it in. It's going to happen on the streets. The streets of San Francisco, Dallas, Miami, Fort Worth, Seattle, Portland. It's going to happen, and it is happening. Thinking that that's only going on in San Francisco is naive. Here's the rub. California has far more homeless than any other state, so you're going to get a lot more of that. The good news, if you're looking down at the ground, hopefully not step anything, you're not looking up and seeing how brown the sky is. The air quality in California is horrendous as well. Number 2, bad for business. If the amount of large corporations leaving California and the amount of small businesses shutting down in California didn't tip you off, California is a bad state for business. Two primary drawbacks of doing business in California is the extreme costs and extreme regulation. They red tape you to death in California. Everyone needs their fees and everyone needs their paperwork filled out. Back in the early 90s, we had a mayor named Mayor Richard Riordan. He was a businessman before he became the mayor of Los Angeles. I remember him talking about cutting some of the red tape out of Los Angeles. And he said when he had his business, which I still think he had at the time, he wanted to have 2 palm trees put out in front of the place. Said he had to go through 11 different offices, and it took over 2 years to get 2 frickin' palm trees planted in front of his business on his own property, by the way. California consistently shows up on lists and studies as one of the worst places to do business. One I was looking at today, they had their corporate tax rate, they were ranked 46th in the nation, and bureaucracy, they were ranked 48th. It's just a very unfriendly business state. All right, before we get to number 1, don't forget we have another channel called On This Day. There's a link down below. We'd love it if you went over and subscribe. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, the rising taxes. If they can figure out a way to tax you for something in California, they will. They have all the taxes a state will give. An example, Oregon has a high property tax and a high state income tax, but they don't have a sales tax. Washington has all the normal taxes, but they don't have a state income tax. California's got all of them, including a pretty high gas tax. According to TurboTax, the top income tax states, or legal jurisdictions, they say, in 2020 were California with 13.3%, Hawaii with 11%, New Jersey with 10.75%, Oregon with 9.9%, and Minnesota with 9.85%. They're over 2% higher than number 2 on the list. So your everyday things cost you more in California. Your home costs you more in California. Your utilities cost you more in California. And your taxes cost you more in California. With the issues California faces right now with the drought, the homeless situation, and all that, I'm sure taxes are going to be going up. After all, you can't fix problems in infrastructure with happy thoughts and well wishes. All right, that's today's video. You really enjoyed it and you're smarter because of it. Let me know in the comment section below which one of the things on this list would have chased you out of California if you were living here. All right, everyone, have a great day. Be nice to each other.